Another day, another international relations story. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said China is strongly considering providing Russia with lethal assistance in its nearly year long war with Ukraine. Blinken, who met with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on the margins of the Munich Security Conference on Saturday, said he warned Beijing against such a move. China is trying to have it both ways, Blinken told NBC News' Chuck Todd in an interview set to air on Sunday. Publicly, they present themselves as a country striving for peace in Ukraine, but privately, as I said, we've seen already over these past months the provision of non-lethal assistance that does go directly to aiding and abetting Russia's war effort. He added that further information indicates that Beijing is concerned providing material support to Russia's war effort that would have a lethal effect. However, Blinken noted that China has not yet provided lethal assistance to Russia. We see China considering this. We have not seen them cross that line, he said. So I think it's important that we make clear, as I did this evening in my meeting with Yang Yi, that this is something that is of deep concern to us. I made clear the importance of not crossing that line and the fact that it would have serious consequences on our relationship. Something that we do not need on top of the balloon incident that China is engaged in. Blinken added, U.S. China relations have been particularly tense in recent weeks after a suspected Chinese spy balloon was spotted hovering over the U.S. The balloon spent about a week traversing the U.S. before it was shot down off the coast of South Carolina on February 4th. Blinken's trip to Beijing was postponed amid the balloon drama, with a State Department official calling the balloon's presence in U.S. airspace a clear violation of our sovereignty as well as international law. Wang, who serves as the director of the Office of the Central Foreign Affairs Committee, mocked Washington's response to the Chinese balloon while at the Munich Security Conference on Saturday, calling it hysterical. So I actually didn't do a single video about that stupid balloon because and I share his opinion with Wang. I thought it was hysterical. Um, and to have Blinken say this is a clear violation of our sovereignty. I mean, you know how many unauthorized wars the U.S. gets involved in, and it travels and shows up in jurisdictions that are not part of its own sovereignty. So they're doing to us in a significantly less lethal way what we do to other places all the time. But when you really think about it, a lot of the U.S.'s problems come down to hypocrisy, and honestly, I could probably speak the rest of this time just paraphrasing things Blinken said here. So where he says China is trying to have it both ways, I could say the U.S. is trying to have it both ways because on one hand it wants to meet with China as this partner and go, hey, we want to work together and we don't want you to give lethal weapons to Russians or to in their conflict with Ukraine. But on the other hand, it wants to try to condemn China for the practices in its own country. And I mean, you can't speak so critically of things that have nothing to do with you in another country and then expect to get along well with them. But the other part of it is that a lot of people don't understand the closeness of China and Russia. China is a country that improved its relations significantly with Russia after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. They're pretty close to each other. They have a pact where it makes a lot of sense for these two countries that are routinely antagonized by America to say, okay, well, you know what, we're gonna side with each other. And I have no doubt in my mind the Chinese government probably is not some big supporter of invading Ukraine, but they're like, hey, Russia's always been good to us. The U.S. is antagonistic to not only them, but us as well. So the enemy of my enemy already was my friend. Now they're even more my friend. Because like I said, besides the little Trump era, that 4-year period, we had the U.S. accusing Russia of meddling with the election, or at least various not the president at that point, but just different politicians, significant figures in the U.S. accusing Russia of interference. You have the U.S. regularly trying to condemn China over practices that have nothing to do with the U.S., like their human rights record, which is hilarious because the U.S. has had its second or third most recent president, Obama, used the Espionage Act to jail journalists multiple times for exposing his war crimes. So we don't have to talk about Guantanamo Bay. So pretty much we as a country run our mouths about what China should be doing and speak very critical of them as well. And then we also, as we speak critically of them and condemn them and just badmouth them here and there, make all kind of threats, we also want them to work with us and to see our side of things and to pretty much stand strongly against a country that they have no reason to be hostile toward whatsoever. Russia is friendly with China. China is friendly with Russia. So, we're asking them to do a lot, and really, they've been kind in the sense that they haven't given lethal assistance, because I'm very much convinced China probably does not want to be involved in a conflict that has nothing to do with itself. Because China is run by some very smart people. They don't get into stupid, pointless military squabbles the way that the U.S. does. I mean, they get mad at China for like not voting to condemn Russia on the UN, and that's pretty much the full extent of its involvement here. It's either not as aggressive as Russia would like, as far as like lethal assistance was something that like Blinken is claiming they're considering. With what proof, I have no idea, but he's claiming that they're considering doing this. And if they're not being involved enough in aiding Russia, they're not being involved enough in condemning them either. Oh, you won't vote to condemn them on the UN. How could you not betray one of your closest allies to side with a bunch of grandstanding countries? Oh my God, I can't believe it. So it's fun to watch America just sit here and try to tell everybody else what to do. It's really comedic. Where he says, I made clear the importance of not crossing that line and the fact that it would have serious consequences on our own relationship. I think that China's probably not going to cross. This is just my prediction, because they don't get involved in wars generally. I don't think they're going to get any lethal assistance for Russia. That's my prediction. And Blinken's little like stupid threat didn't do anything, because U.S. and China relations are already not good. So he's basically saying, how can we make something that's already bad even worse by, sticking our finger up and trying to look strong when we're actually very terrified of you because you're the other world superpower. It's just this whole conflict has been so interesting to watch, just the different countries and their reactions. And I mean, it's like if we get this mad at China over a stupid balloon that killed nobody, imagine how upset we'll get over, them arming. And I still don't think they will, but like them arming Russians will just make us lose our minds. So it's sad that America has these expectations of other countries that if the shoe were on the other foot, we would totally not acquiesce to. Like, if you had actually no perfect example, look at what we did in Yemen. We aided Saudi Arabia in destroying that country, blowing up all these hospitals and starving children. Do you think that if somewhere, let's say Iran or North Korea, some country that we're not friends with, was like, hey, look, we get that U.S., that you and Saudi Arabia are really close buddies, and you'll do anything for this non-democratic country while you preach all this stuff about democracy, but they're killing a lot of people and starving children and blowing up hospitals and grocery stores. Can you please not work with them, and maybe we can patch something up? We would have said, oh well, Iran, North Korea, China, we already don't like you. We already are seeking your demise, or some other thing out of you where we're going to keep like having conflict. So if you don't like that we're assisting one of our close allies with a conflict that has nothing to do with us, too bad. But when China does that, except arguably nowhere near to the extent that we did, because this has only been going on for now a year, and it still isn't lethal assistance. Whereas we had 6-7 years of arming them in their conflict in Yemen, Saudi Arabia. So really, I'm just conveying that the U.S. tries to tell other people or other countries to do things that it itself is guilty of, as far as like having some ally that it just won't criticize, or it won't cut itself off from, or it won't condemn. That's exactly how we are with Saudi Arabia and Israel. So it's just something that it's like every time we get involved with trying to tell somebody else, you see the cracks in our armor. We're just a bunch of hypocrites in suits who have nukes. That's the only difference between us, and probably a majority of other countries. Like a lot of other ones are honest about what they are. Like in Saudi Arabia, they're like, yeah, we don't have a democracy, not over here, but we're like, we stand for democracy. You know, it's sad that they get away with this because people don't pay attention to it.